We have 1,550 clients in just one case alone, right? So a firm our size with 45 attorneys, you can just imagine how many thousands of clients there is altogether. What's one of the number one complaints of most clients is the fact that they don't hear from their lawyer, or they don't get communication, or they don't know, they don't have updates, so they don't know what's going on with their cases, right? So the number one thing that AI can do for you is help you with that communication.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today on Law Firm Growth Ideas. And this session is for AI for law firm growth, how firms use AI for business development, marketing, PR, and intake. I'm Rav Mendirata, and I run Social Squares, a digital marketing firm helping attorneys aim higher. And yes, AIM is an acronym because we are in the legal world and we can't resist those, right? AIM stands for AI Tools and Marketing. And if this is your first time here, let me give you some context on law firm growth ideas. And here's the backstory. So over the years, one thing became painfully obvious. Lawyers and law firms don't need more information. You already get a lot with your CLEs, your webinars, your newsletters, and at least one partner who forwards articles with the subject line, important, and that's at a late night, right? We think that what law firms actually need is better examples, better systems, field-tested lessons from people doing the work right now. And that's why law firm growth ideas exists. And this is a team sport. Joe, Matthew, Sharon, and I came together because we see a different part of the law firm growth puzzle. Joe Marchelewski, who is also speaking today, brings the PR and marketing side. Matthew King runs eSudo, an MSP and an IT firm built specifically around law firms. And Sharon Means, who's an outstanding integrator who helps firms execute without chaos. And I bring the growth and the marketing execution lens. So different angles, but same mission, helping firms grow with clarity, consistency, and results. The common thread across all of us is simple. We care about what works, not theory, not trends, no fluff. So every month, we are bringing in one expert who's been there, done that, and can share real-world lessons you can actually apply. And today, we got exactly that. We have Danny, Abir, and Joe talking about AI for law firm growth. Danny, thank you for making the time to be with us today. I know how full a managing partner's calendar is, and we genuinely appreciate you sharing what you're learning and what's working.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. So 2 quick housekeeping notes before we get started. This would be a live interactive session, so please drop your questions in chat as they come up, and we'll leave time for Q&A towards the end. All right, Joe, over to you to introduce yourself and also properly introduce Danny because I didn't do a good job.
Hi, I'm Joe Marchelewski. I'm the owner and president of AIJ Communications. We are a legal public relations agency. We represent firms throughout the country, quite a few in California, but also Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, all over. We help firms promote their attorneys, the firm itself, their cases, their clients, and we do our best to make sure we accentuate the positives. I had the honor of having a great conversation today with one of my favorite clients, Danny Abir, and Axe Law. Danny and I've worked together for many years, and one of the reasons I'm excited to talk to Danny about this topic, as Rob said, Danny is incredibly practical, and Danny cares about what works. Just a little bit of background about Danny. He's the managing partner and one of the founding partners of Axe Law, which, funny enough, like you guys are celebrating 10 years this year, which is fantastic. The firm was founded in 2016 They have obtained over $1 billion for their clients. They're one of the largest plaintiffs-only litigation practices in California. Danny and the firm have worked on several significant cases. Most significant of note recently is the historic settlement with LA County on the camp abuse cases, and Danny was heavily involved and helped spearhead a lot of the litigation there, and tremendous results for some really deserving clients. Danny is one of the leaders when it comes to incorporating AI into law firm practice. And I think what's going to be great about this conversation is Danny doesn't shy away from the stuff that's coming. I think there are attorneys who, for one reason or another, are either afraid or concerned about it. Danny is one of those guys who just dives right into the waves. So I think we're going to get someone who's sort of on the front lines about this. Other stuff about Danny, not just a leader at his firm, he's the 2028 president of the Consumer Attorneys Association of Los Angeles, which is the largest local plaintiff bar association in the country. Danny and one of the other attorneys that ACTS is actually the 27th president. So ACTS is going to get a lot of, I'm going to be very busy in 27 and 28 promoting the firm. He offers a ton of guidance and leadership, as do the people at his firm. A number of those attorneys are sought after by other firms for help, for guidance to come in and take over trials. So they're not just really smart about how they're incorporating AI into the firm. They're tremendous attorneys that are respected in the legal field. So, Danny, we're going to talk AI and business development today. And it's a serious topic, I think, for a lot of people because, like I said, I think there's some intimidation. I don't know if you've seen that with some of the attorneys you work with and that you know, but do you sense that kind of that fear that the Terminator is going to come and destroy the legal universe? Is that something you're seeing in our field?
You've become a mind reader because I was going to start with a line from Terminator. And what was the name of the company?
Oh, Skynet.
Skynet. I was going to say welcome to Skynet before we start the conversation. The concept of AI, thanks to movies and Hollywood, has always actually been either something that's a fantasy or something that's evil. Can it be used in a negative way? 100%, not necessarily, at least not yet, in the Skynet type of way, but it can be used to create things that don't exist and make it very real and realistic. I think for that reason, a lot of people are kind of standoffish when it comes to AI. At the same time, in the legal industry, it's a little bit different because lawyers by nature are not very flexible when it comes to change. If you go back to a few years ago when there was a huge push for non-lawyer ownership of law firms and hedge funds getting into the business of law, the argument they were all making was, well, lawyers are archaic, law firms are archaic. They are not coming up with the times, they're not using technology. And that was the argument they were using to say, okay, let us bring the business world into the business of law and show you what we can do. So because of that, you see a lot of folks that are standoffish about AI. And then there are folks who think that AI is going to replace them. And the combination of the two is creating a situation where not everybody is jumping on board or ready to get with the program, basically.
So when law firm owners, when managing partners hear AI, like you're talking about, they're thinking about hype, they're thinking about complexity, there are fears. But from what you've seen in practice, where is AI today really delivering value for firms? And that on the case management side, on the firm management side, what is AI doing, and what are you doing specifically with the AI tools currently available?
So if you think about your business as an attorney, there are two sides to it. Then there's the case management side, like you mentioned, and then there's a firm management side to it. On the case management side, AI can be used to draft demand letters, draft motions, do research, even with your client information, to be able to gather or basically summarize medical records, summarize depositions, summarize basically a voluminous amount of information. On the firm management side, you can use it basically on cost saving and making people a lot more efficient. If you think about what the world has gone through since COVID, if you remember, it was a conversation you and I had, Joe, right after COVID. What in the world happened to the workforce? Why is it so hard to find people? And it's funny, much to Boris's shock, my partner Boris, who kept saying, well, wait, things will change, things will come back. We are in 2026 now, and nothing has changed. You still have a shortage in almost every industry when people are looking for quality hires. So if you think about a workforce that is lacking in terms of being able to find good people, using AI to make those that you have more efficient, making them be able to do a lot more with a lot less time, will make you a much more successful firm in terms of both cost saving and in terms of not having to hire people. So right now, as far as our firm is concerned, we are using AI for research. We are using AI for drafting documents. We are using AI for drafting demands, and basically, and as well as client communications. There's so much that you can use AI for. It doesn't do anything 100%, and I wouldn't say I would use 100%, but basically what you can do is transform what would be considered months of work into days, if not hours. And that's basically what I would suggest in terms of where you would use AI right now in any practice.
As a quick follow-up within your firm, so there has to be some training, right? Because these are different tools. And then, for those of us who do public relations, those of us who embraced AI realized we can use it to write, but to your point, you cannot 100% trust AI. There's the hallucinations and everything else. But that also means your skill set needs to adjust a little bit. In my universe, we need to be editors a lot better. We need to double check, facts and figures, spelling of names, those sorts of things. And that's very practical on my side. But what is training like for your firm, for your team, when it comes to incorporating sort of these new areas?
So we were very proactive about this. I think we are one of very few law firms that actually has a chief technology officer. We do have a CTO. We have an AI team that just focuses on innovation. How do we use basically the technology that we have and the technology that's out there? And we have monthly AI meetings with the entire firm to give them updates as far as what's going on with technology, what can they use, how can they use it. And we have designated folks who have interest in AI for our staff and attorneys to be able to reach out to and basically ask questions to the extent that they want. So that's part of basically the overall picture. As far as training is concerned, the first thing we do is we have to find out, is there something, it's not a question of like using a whole bunch of different AI programs or tools. It's a question of, okay, what tools can be really used for our purposes and for what we do. And based on that, we designate folks who are the champions of that tool or software and make sure that they know how to use it so they can answer questions for folks.
That's great. Because you're a leader in the legal universe and you speak a lot on these topics, you're working closely with firms that are at different growth stages. From your perspective, how does the way a top performing firm use AI differ from how a struggling or maybe even a plateaued firm approaches that issue?
So A firm that's, I mean, top firms are using AI to augment what they already have, right? So what they're trying to do, it's not a replacement for what they have. It's you take your top people and give them tools to be better. I don't know if you ever read the Netflix book, which is very, very interesting and fascinating when it comes to running a business. There was a point where they had to lay off a whole bunch of their folks, and they laid off almost 75% of their workforce, and they kept the top players, basically the A+ players. What they found out was that the A+ players outperformed all of them put together, all the 100% of the employees that they had. So what you do is, if you take your folks and give them, basically augment them and become more effective at what they can do and more efficient, you will produce a lot better when it comes to having the AI basically do the heavy lifting for them so they can do the things that they can do. It's not AI replacing them, it's AI making them better. And then other for the, like you mentioned, training. Training is very important. Things are only as good as if you use them. If you don't use, if you have the best tool available to you in your firm and you're paying for it, and God knows we all have, it's kind of like the gym membership that you have. You have a gym membership, but you never go to the gym.
Right.
So if you have a tool that's going to make you better, the question is, are you going to use it? And most folks tend to use it as long as they know how to use it. So training is really, really important. They also, you want to use the right, like I was saying, you use the right AI tools. So find out what tools are really good for you. Where can you augment and get better, and use those basically tools in order to do it. And on that note, basically, you want to have a list. These are the things, these are the tools that our firm is using, so that folks just don't go willy-nilly and just use any tool that's out there. You want everybody to be using it in a uniform fashion, and that's going to be really good. The struggling firms tend to be those who don't invest the time in the learning, that's for sure. They think that AI is going to replace them. I keep getting that question again and again from lawyers, especially young ones. Do you think AI is going to replace me? And my answer tends to be the same across the board. AI is not going to replace lawyers, but AI, those attorneys who know how to use AI will replace the ones that don't know how to use AI. So in that context, it will replace people, but it's people replacing people, not AI replacing people.
Yeah, it harkens back to, you know, the turn of the millennia, when all of a sudden the internet was the new thing, and some very similar fears. You know, is this going to replace me? And it's like, well, the people who know how to use internet tools are the ones who are the future, essentially.
Precisely.
Yeah, you know, sort of follow up to that topic of training, and I appreciate that you allowed me to sit on, and I don't know if you want to bring up the vendor that it was, but an AI, a company the firm works with that does AI, and I was able to sort of see you not just allowing the firm to be trained, but going the other way, talking to the company. This is what my firm needs. These are the issues we're facing. This is how it has to be incorporated. So I feel like you're making that a conversation as well, not just talking to your firm, the attorneys and staff, saying, this is how you use AI, this is how you use these tools, but going to the company and saying, you've got to make these adjustments because this is what the day-to-day is like.
Yeah, most companies that have AI tools are not law firms. They are not run by lawyers. They just know certain things. So they don't necessarily create the tools that you need for your practice. They just make a general tool. So giving them feedback, telling them where they can add value to you is a basically win-win scenario, where it gives them more insight as far as what they need to do with their tool, but at the same time, it gives you a more consistent tool that's going to be helping your practice, basically.
Yeah. You know, firms are trying, it looks like they're trying to incorporate AI with a focus on marketing, whether it's ChatGPT to write content or whatever it is. But I think from what I've seen in some of the conversations even we've had, intake is really that's like the battle. That's the lifeblood of the firm. Um, how have you seen AI changing the intake process in a meaningful way? And again, how are you and Axe Law utilizing AI in your intake?
So that's a very touchy subject for me. uh, AI, when it comes to intake, it's the reason it's touchy is most people don't like dealing with AI agents. But I personally have seen AI agents that will blow you away. I don't know if I ever gave you this. There was a restaurant in Los Feliz that actually I was trying to call and see if they had the table. An AI agent answered the phone. Joe, I had such a blast with the AI agent. I started joking around. Well, I'm not sure how hungry I am. What do you have for someone who's not that hungry, but just wants to fill her? And then she's all like, well, if you like something on the salty side, it's this. This one is more tangy. Um, and had a full-on conversation. If it wasn't for the fact that I knew it was AI, I could very comfortably say I was just talking to someone with a great sense of humor.
Right.
AI learns and it's learning, and as you go forward, there are different tools out there right now that you can use to communicate with an AI agent. And I've actually seen it firsthand. The dialogue from day one to the dialogue 8 weeks later is completely different. It learns what you want. It talks to you in the manner in which you want. The tonality changes, everything changes. So that's coming and that's there. There are firms who currently use AI to answer the calls, do the intake, call back clients to make sure the intake is complete, and send out in conjunction with their case management software the retainer agreement for the client to sign and send back. That would create speed, which is one of the most important things on intake, particularly in the personal injury field or any field where you have competition in the business that you're trying to get. Speed to respond is very important to a lot of folks. So that you can use it in that context. You can use it to qualify if you're giving it parameters and say, if this and this happens, this is what you do. If this doesn't qualify and doesn't meet these criteria, you reject it politely. You can do that. You can also use AI to evaluate cases that are referred to you. As you mentioned, we get pulled into trials quite often, and we get a stack this big in terms of a case file that's been worked on for 2 years. So as you can imagine, being able to evaluate whether or not we want to jump into the case, it's a lot of work, and we have a limited time usually. So you can use AI in order to go through the documents and see if this is something that would qualify for you to be able to work on.
That's great. Can you walk us through maybe a real world example of a firm, whether it's yours or another you're aware of, that implemented AI tools and saw some measurable growth, or was really able to sort of use AI tools in a way that made a big difference in the firm? The changes that occurred, surprises. I mean, you talk about, the intake. That's really interesting, and I think maybe sometimes we lose track of AI as a learning tool. It's not just a tool now, but it's a tool hopefully that gets better and better the more you use it. But where do you see that being implemented?
So it started with a company called Even Up that started using AI for demand letters. And that was something that they did quite well. But the funny thing is when we signed up with Even Up initially, which was a couple of years ago, our folks didn't like it. But the one thing that they didn't factor into that decision is the fact that it was learning. So the AI features of Even Up in writing demands now versus then have changed. But the same thing, you don't even have to get a software. You can use any AI agent basically that you build up to write simple demands for you. So writing a simple demand, where we used to have somebody who would be basically, you would have to line up a whole bunch of demands for them to write. Now our case managers can actually do their own demands on simple demands, and they're coming out almost error-free, and they're very good, and is saving a lot of time. So that's one example. The example that I really am very proud of is in the mass tort department and mass tort field. You mentioned our LA County sex abuse cases. We have 1,550 clients, and we had to do a submission on those cases. And the submission would have required easily, if we wanted to have attorneys drafted, maybe 2 months worth of work with that many clients. And what we did was we gave the AI agent that we've built within the firm, and it's our own, it's not a software, but it's our own tool, that is going into our case management software, getting the information, and from the information, putting together basically the document that we had to present to the county on each client. It was so very well done that even the clients that looked at the product at the end, they said, "Oh my God, I am so happy that you guys know me so well, and you've really listened to me." Now, the product wasn't something that after the work was basically what it was accumulated or put together, we didn't just say, "Okay, this is it, we're going to submit it." Our attorneys reviewed it, make sure that everything is right and correct, and then we submit it. But
Right.
what was initially over 2 months of work turned into something that we were able to wrap up in a matter of a week, which is incredible.
Yeah, and it feels like, your Axelaw handles some significant mass tort cases, and it feels like for firms like yours that are handling mass torts, or the firms that are handling class actions, it's like incorporating AI that really can help you scale, because like you're talking about, this process that would have taken 2 months. And look, AI is not perfect, but you wrestle with human error. How many different people are working on it? So each letter is going to sound maybe a little bit different, and all of that. It sounds like it can be used like a firm like yours in a really good way to help you grow and scale, and handle massive cases with a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The whole point of using AI correctly is you want to grow. You're always looking to grow. Well, you may want to grow in the quality of cases you're going to work on. You may want to grow in size. You may want to, whatever it is that if you're trying to grow, what you can do with AI is to grow smartly and effectively and become more efficient. So in mass tort specifically, that's even better.
Yeah, that's great. You've got many partners and attorneys worrying that AI is going to depersonalize client relationships. And you just talked about a great example where quite the opposite happened. How are you, as you're incorporating it more, how do you make sure that AI is increasing client engagement and building trust, as opposed to getting a form letter that sounds like a robot wrote it?
So think about it this way. I mean, and you can scale it any which way you want. We have 1,550 clients in just one case alone, right? So a firm our size with 45 attorneys, you can just imagine how many thousands of clients there is altogether. What's one of the number one complaints of most clients? Is the fact that they don't hear from their lawyer, or they don't get communication, or they don't have updates, or they don't know what's going on with their cases, right? So the number one thing that AI can do for you is help you with that communication. They can basically be responsive, giving you personalized updates, and make sure that it's personalized to your tone. Remember, you can actually have AI write a letter in the tone of Mr. T. You can write a letter to the tone of President Trump. You can do one in the tone of Rocky Balboa. I mean, there are different tones that you can do. So as the AI learns what your tone is and how you write it, it can write letters that are personalized just like you and the way you would want to handle it. Clients, it's not that the client has to talk to AI, but the AI agent can make things a lot more effective. And at the same time, there are certain things that as long as the client knows what the AI agent is trying to do and why you're using AI, clients don't even have a problem with that. I mean, there are tools whereby the AI calls the client and says, I just want to, hi, so-and-so, it's Jake from Axe Law. We want to make sure that your, what do you call it? You get to your appointments, right? We want to make sure that you go to your doctor appointment that's set on such and such. And then the client says, well, I really don't feel like going because it's too far away. I don't have a way to get there. And then the AI agent that just called as a reminder can actually respond back and forth with the client and say, well, if that's the case, I'm sorry to hear that. Do you want me to arrange different transportation for you? Do you want me to find a different doctor that's closer to you, and so on and so forth? So as long as the client knows that this is what it's for and it's really to help the client, most clients don't have a problem with that either.
I think part of what, and leads into my next question, part of what you're talking about sort of is a mindset change for firms and for firm leaders. What's a mindset shift that law firm leaders and owners need to have before AI becomes an effective tool?
So, like I mentioned, the very first thing is stop thinking AI is going to replace you. That's the first mindset that I would say change that mindset. The other thing is you either jump on board or you're going to be left behind. This is moving so fast. I gave a presentation on AI and the field of law August 2024, and I gave a presentation August 2025. My very first slide was the Flintstones arrow to the Jetsons.
Right.
And that's basically the speed by which, or the amount of difference the advancements that had been there for AI in a matter of 12 months. So my point is you want to jump on now, learn now, because otherwise it goes so fast, you're going to be left behind. Be willing to invest in it. Make sure that you realize that what you're spending in there, you're going to recoup. AI will make mistakes. Some people say, I don't trust it. Any associate you hire, any paralegal you hire, any legal secretary you hire, any employee can make mistakes. You have to have checks and balances to make sure that is not going to be the case. That if there is a mistake, somebody catches it. And then, yeah, you really want to have discipline. You want to understand that you understand what the tool is going to give you and what you can expect from it. And lastly, like we mentioned, teaching it. Yeah, people have to learn. So education is very important on that, because again, people won't use what they don't know, or they don't know how to use.
Right. Okay, so that's philosophy. But with countless tools, AI tools in the market right now, how should firms choose these tools versus workflows that actually drive results? And if there are any specific examples of software companies, products you using or you'd recommend, feel free to dive into that as well.
So I get that question very often, and I actually get emails left and right, people saying, what do you think of this software? What do you think of this software? Every tool, and I'm not trying to like shy away from giving an answer to it, but it really depends on your practice. So for a PI practice, it's very different than a family law practice, than a corporate law practice. If you're a defense practice versus a plaintiff practice, how much marketing do you do? What kind of marketing do you do? Do you do social media marketing? There are so many different tools out there. And my recommendation is first find out what it is that you need. Where can you gain efficiencies? and then look and see if there is a tool out there. Right now, about 80, there are AI tools for about 80% of what we do as attorneys. So it's not that 80% of the things that we do, there is some tool out there that can do it. It doesn't do 100% of the work, but it does at least a portion of it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that the way I would say is that you have to find out what it is that your firm needs. You have to find out what your case management software is compatible with. If you use, for example, ChatGPT has gotten a lot better over time. But make sure that you use the right parameters, build the right agent, make sure that you know exactly the agent knows what it's supposed to do. One of the funniest things is one of my buddies called me and said, I used ChatGPT to set up my lineup for fantasy football last week. And I said, so how did it go? And he said, ChatGPT recommended that I use such and such player who is no longer on the Dallas Cowboys, but he was suggesting that's the thing. So even on something as simple as that, unless you build, and then I told him, no, what you should do is say, you have to be completely knowledgeable on everything that has gone in the National Football League up to this point. Make sure you have all updated knowledge. And when he did that, the response came back saying, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, I didn't have updated information. So you get it. So you have LexisNexis, you have Westlaw. Which one do I use? Westlaw has a very good, robust system with including AI. But for a firm that's a large firm that has a lot of attorneys, it can be very pricey. So can LexisNexis do the same thing? Most likely, yes. We have both. We have both LexisNexis AI as well as Westlaw AI. Most of our folks are right now using LexisNexis.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really interesting. And like that AI, you can have a conversation with it. And I think that's one of the new concepts, right? Normally, the first 30 years of incorporating internet tools into our lives, you tell it to do something and it either can or it can't. AI theoretically should be able to adapt to our needs and to, Axe law needs this. And in every case that Axe law has, car accident, truck accident, mass tort, sexual abuse, whatever it is, like it's going to need to adjust, and you can teach it to adjust to each individual case, each type of case at least.
It actually, in some ways, it teaches itself, and in some ways, it will adjust itself as it goes on. And again, I've used different tools whereby I start having a conversation with the AI tool, going back and forth. And after a while, it can get to know exactly what you're asking or what you're going to ask, and it predicts it and it starts going ahead of you, it's really fascinating.
Yeah, that's really cool. We're coming up on 40 minutes. I want to ask a couple more questions, and then we've got some questions from the audience. I want to make sure we get to those as well. So what are some mistakes? You talked about knowing the tools that are right for your type of firm, right for your type of practice. What are some other common mistakes you're seeing firms making when they try to first integrate AI into their marketing or into their operations?
So a lot of folks think that AI can do everything. AI cannot do everything. A lot of people think that AI can do it without human supervision. You need validators, even if AI is doing something. So there's a company out there called Foundation AI. Foundation AI takes every document that comes in, whether via email or mail, scans it and puts it into the right folder with your naming conventions into your system. Phenomenal. It makes things a lot faster. However, you still need a validator, somebody who's going to sit there. And while before maybe 10 people were scanning your documents and putting them in the right folders, now you just need one or two validators who make sure that the naming conventions are correct, and the documents are in the right folder initially. As you correct it, if there are mistakes, it learns and it does not repeat the same mistake. So just make sure there's a human in the loop when you're doing it. Make sure you give clear instructions, not conflicting instructions. It's very, very important because AI will do what you tell it to do as long as it understands what it is that you need for it to do. Um, if you're a lawyer, making sure it's the right jurisdiction, giving it the right. We are in California. We are not in New York. Local laws, state laws are important. Don't expect that AI can do everything autonomously. In some things that it can, but most things, again, you have to make sure that you are watching everything. And then when you're using free tools that are out there, one of the things you really have to be aware of is putting your client information out there. That's really, really important.
Yeah.
You have attorney-client privilege information that you could potentially be waiving. So that's one of the things that I'm very careful of if you're putting your client information out there.
Yeah, and for those who weren't on last month's podcast, we talked a little bit about. I think Matthew might have talked about. There's different settings, especially with something like ChatGPT, to protect. This thing doesn't just want to learn. The people who built it want to take this information so that it can help the company, help the AI in general. And if you have things like HIPAA laws, which is the biggest concern I've read about in terms of privacy issues. These are things that attorneys really need to take seriously, to your point, Danny. So making sure your settings are set so this doesn't get outside of this office, this firm, this computer, that sort of thing. I'm sure that's a concern that you're all the attorneys, especially the leadership, are really stressing to each other and to younger attorneys that might not be at the forefront of their thinking.
Very much so.
So last two questions from me, a little bit lightning round. So next 12 to 24 months, if you can do some guesswork, some prognostication, how is AI going to change what it means to be a competitive law firm? And I think LA is the perfect petri dish. This is already the most competitive legal market probably in the world. How is AI being incorporated? What do you see happening over the next year or two?
I think so. As far as the personal injury field is concerned, or at least plaintiff work is concerned, because of the fact that there's so many large players and it's such a saturated market, I think those that use AI efficiently are able to stand out and at least somewhat level the playing field in some ways. I think you're going to see a lot of case management softwares using AI or having an AI feature in them. So you can use your case management software can actually basically have an augmented version with AI that can make things a lot more efficient and better. So I think that's going to be, I think you're going to have a lot more firms realizing this is serious. So they're going to invest more money into AI literacy for all intents and purposes. And I think speed is going to be the name of the game. Things are going to get a lot faster.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to make a big difference.
All right, we're going to go to some of our listener audience questions, then I'll leave my last question for the end. Jennifer Bradford asks, if you are billing less time on a case, and this is, I guess, for the hourly firms, billing less time on a case by using AI, how do you make up for that, or do you? Our partner is concerned that we will have the increased expense of AI and then be billing less on top of that, which, for the firms that are really billing their time, so more, I guess, the defense side, that's a concern I'm sure that they're really digging into. I don't know if you can speak to that a bit, Danny.
So you leave the defense side. That's the answer. Sorry, I just had to say that.
Oh, I got it. Hey, yeah, absolutely.
A plaintiff lawyer at heart. What can I say? So I think it's very, very similar to what you use the time that you use for LexisNexis, for example, or for Westlaw. before when we used to do research, we had to go through books and go through line by line, and now it takes a minute or two to be able to get the information. So I think clients will be happy to pay for the technology for you to be able to reduce the time. So that's the way I would look at it, is that yes, you're saving time, so the client is paying less, but at the same time, client would have to bear the burden of part of that, I guess, saving, because you're incurring additional costs in order to give them that saving. I personally have never been in an hourly practice to see how else they would be able to address that issue. But the one thing I can tell you is that when we were talking about the non-lawyer ownership of law firms, one of the proponents of that were the big four accounting firms. Big four accounting firms have historically, and you know that they practice law outside the US, everywhere else except the US. So there are law firms outside of the US, and they are very, very up on technology. They really know how to use technology efficiently. And one of the reasons that I think it would impact the defense firms is that if those guys come in, they can do the same work, which much fewer hours and minutes, making basically billable hours a thing of the past, and they would be value billing as opposed to hourly billing. And I think that's probably what you're going to see over time in that industry, whereby billable hours will go away and you'll end up with basically value billing.
And if I could add to that, so in 2007, 8, 9, I was working at Skadden Arps in Manhattan, and that was right during the Great Recession, the beautiful heights of the Great Recession. I was working in Manhattan, and there were all sorts of conversations then, because banks were failing, that things were really tight, about adjusting the billable hour, adjusting fee schedules. And they were, I think, big law tends to be very open to those conversations when the economy is in crisis. But the second that ends, they go right back to, let's bill every phone call, let's bill every this, let's bill every that. I think to your point, Danny, there needs to be some flexibility, because AI might be the permanent game changer, not this every 7 to 10 years the economy, has a cold, but this is a permanent change that's here.
I agree with that.
So Dean Myers had asked that question. I'm jumping a little bit, is will AI eliminate the billable hour based compensation into fee based? I would say there's that potential right now.
That's what I meant by when I said value billing. I think that's basically the same as fee based. I think you end up with value billing because of AI.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. Michelle Fonseca Camana, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. What specific AI tools do you use for your firm, and what do you use them for? And Danny, you've talked about a little bit about that, but if there are any you didn't mention that you wanted to discuss, please feel free.
It all depends on what you want to do. I mean, depending on what you're trying to get out of it, I would use a different tool for each thing. Even Up, Eve, Supio are pretty all-encompassing tools out there right now, from A to Z when it comes to litigation and plaintiff work. As far as research is concerned, you still have Lexis AI and, like I said, Westlaw. The tools that are out there for marketing, I don't have them on top of my head, but there's something called Kimberly, which actually can answer your calls and communicate with your clients. So those are out there. I'd be happy if you send me an email with your firm and the kind of needs you have, and I can give you a list of basically tools that I would use.
All right, I appreciate that, Danny. So last question from me, and I think we're coming up to it, so I think this will be the last question. So if we've got any managing partners listening right now, listening to the podcast later, if they wanted one practical step toward using AI more effectively this quarter, what would you tell them to focus on and why?
So first things first, you have to set what tools your firm is going to use. So that's number one. You have to have a plan and implement it. So make sure that you say, okay, these are the tools we're going to use. This is what we're going to use it for. This is our training. This is the process, and have a roadmap. Because I think in order to do that, in order for people to be bought in, they have to have a set of rules. Also, find out who is going to be in your firm. Whether if you're solo, that's easy. But if you're not solo, pick someone who is tech savvy, is excited about it, and is going to be in charge of making sure things are moving forward. So I think that's going to be really important to be able to get started.
That's fantastic. Danny, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us. For those of us who are staff or vendors or consultants or the attorneys we have on, this is really important stuff. And you're doing a great job staying up to date with the changes. And I think we all appreciate you taking the time with us today. And I know I was telling Angela, you were probably working until 11:59 and 59 seconds, and then jump on this podcast, and you probably have a 1 o'clock call. That's my guess.
You actually you hit it right on the nose, which is why it's funny. I got a Slack message saying, "Do you have the Zoom link?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." And it was like 5 minutes before. I'm like, "Yes, I have the Zoom link, but I haven't jumped. I will be jumping on like 2 minutes before."
All right, Rob. Yeah, I know you had an announcement before we jump off.
Yes, before that, thank you, Danny. This was, for somebody in my field, this was a fascinating discussion and a very encouraging discussion. It's awesome to see somebody who's not only just investing in tools, but investing in people, investing in training, and knows what a good use of AI versus just using AI means. So thank you so much for doing this and sharing all these valuable lessons.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, and thank you, Joe, for doing an awesome job running the session.
I'm blessed to work with brilliant minds. And so if I can just let them shine, it makes everyone look much smarter. So
Absolutely. All right. Thank you to all our attendees as well. I do want to share the next session, which we have on February 11th, which would be a very different session from this one. We won't be talking about AI, but we'll have a conversation on a freedom framework for small law firms. Janelle Sam is our speaker. She's a fractional COO at Seabrook Law Firm, which is a family law firm. And she has built this awesome framework to help small firm owners move from overwhelm to constant fighting to clarity, control, and sustainable freedom. And with her framework, she blends proven business strategy and practical operational insights. So I'll put the link in chat for you all to register, and you will receive the video recording of this session today and more information about the upcoming session.